Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna do kind of a podcast video today because I feel like I have a lot of knitting related things to talk about, but they don't really fit into a specific category. So I'm just gonna basically talk about it all in this video if you care to listen. Thanks for joining me. So I completed 3-ish cardigans in the last about 5 weeks or so. The first one I already showed, it was my green Shrek looking Esther jacket. No, sorry, not Esther jacket, Dagmar jacket. The next one was this Esther jacket, which I can show you, I can stand up. I have little snowflake buttons from Norway on it. And then on the back, well actually like on the inside back, there's this little tag that in German says make your own light, and I thought it was really cute. And I've had this tag for almost a year now and it's just been sitting in my little bedside crafting area, and I like after every project I finish I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it on. But then I finally put this one on and I feel like it kind of matches because it's blue and yellow, and I thought it was just really cute. There's this one craft store in actually, like, I think it's multiple parts of Switzerland and maybe some other countries as well, like maybe Germany. It's called Bernina. Actually, I think I saw one in Oslo as well. It's like a sewing shop primarily, but I think they do sell some yarns if I'm not mistaken, and fabrics in general. I actually got a little bag from them, and I keep like socks, I think, in it. Not socks that I made, just like workout socks. And I like to get their little tags. They're usually in German, but they look really cute. They have little animals on them and cute little sayings. So on some of my clothes that I've knit, I have those tags on. But yeah, I really had the vision to add the snowflake buttons onto this jacket because I don't know, I feel like the bumps kind of reminded me of like a snowflake texture. And also this color I feel like works well with the silver and the snowflake. It looks like very wintry. But I will say, when I was on my trip to the West Coast, I had to stop making this because I didn't bring all 6 skeins with me. I had wound up 5 and I took 5 because I really didn't have that much space. I had a small carry-on with me, plus a whole nother project I'll show you in a second. So I think I got up to here, like both sleeves done up to here, and then I had to finish this half of the sleeve at home. When I got back, I think I actually finished it the night that I got back because I was kind of impatient, and I finished the other project on the plane as well. So yeah, I actually finished 2 of these in a day. Not like fully from like start to finish, but like the ends of the projects, the sleeves of the projects I finished both in the same day, which is kind of cool. But I was kind of debating if I wanted to make the sleeves a little bit more tapered because when I was knitting it, it just was kind of baggy, but I didn't do it. I feel like if I did it, I would probably have enough yarn to finish the second sleeve while I was on the trip, but I didn't do it just because I don't have a lot of pieces that can accommodate bigger sleeves. So that was basically the goal of this project, was to have something that I could wear stuff with bigger sleeves underneath it, especially for winter. I feel like that's more of like the appropriate thing to do. But what else can I say about it? Oh, I have a friend who was also knitting this kind of at the same time as me. I think she unraveled it though, and we were talking about how this pattern is actually quite difficult to follow. And it's not just me who thinks that. I think a lot of people think that, but I didn't know that because I never talked to anybody about it before I started it. But it was kind of validating to hear that, because it's not that the technique is specifically difficult, it's just memorizing the colorwork chart is really hard. And you would think that just, oh, it's just like knits and purls, you know, it's not that hard. Remembering where to do it, and then you're also doing it on the wrong side too. That part is tricky. I feel like if anybody's knit this, let me know. It took me a good while to finally, I feel like once I got past the joining of like the front back parts, then it was a little bit okay, but I still had to go back and drop a stitch and like repair it because like maybe on this row I accidentally purled or something, because you can't really get into a flow state with this, I would say. The sleeves were a lot easier though, because you're on the round and you can see what you're doing the whole time. It's just when you're working front and back, then that's a little bit hard. What else can I say about it? I think that's pretty much it. But other than that, I do like the finished result. I did have to, so okay, this is another thing I was gonna say. When I was knitting this, it was very, like, not bulky, I don't know how to say it, but it just wasn't lying flat, so you couldn't really see the pattern well. It was kind of bunched up just because it wasn't washed yet. And even after I washed it, I think it still wasn't lying completely flat. So I steam blocked it. Like, I kind of like used my iron to iron it down on the wrong side. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I did it and it worked. So not saying anybody else should like go and iron their stuff, but I had like a wet washcloth, and then on the wet washcloth I put the iron on the wrong side just to flatten it out a little bit, which it works. So there we have it. All right, next thing is the other project that I finished on this trip, which is my Nordic mix sweater. It looks like this, and shout out to my friend who let me use her sewing machine when I came up to Seattle, because I would not have been able to continue knitting on this trip without you, because I had to steek the arms to add the sleeves. So she's a real one, and I appreciate you. Anyways, so I actually started this before leaving on my trip. My trip was about like 2-3 weeks, I think. And I had this part done, I think. Oh wait, I think before my trip I had about like, maybe like this much done, like up to here. And then I worked this much on my plain. And then I, like plain ride over, and then I stopped after the body was done because I had to wait until I went to Seattle to go and steek it. But in the meantime, I'd worked on this one. I think I worked on this one, and I was done with the body quite quickly just because I had not much to do. And it's like, also you're using size 8 needles, and it's quite a thick yarn. It's actually the Hierholt triple yarn. I know Petite Knit uses that a lot. But then after I steeked it, I was able to start working on the sleeves. By the way, I was working on 2 projects at the same time, and I just did not enjoy working on 2 projects at the same time because I was like, which one should I do right now? Like, which one should I do? But yeah, so I'm probably not gonna do that again. It was just desperate times of like, I couldn't continue knitting one, so I had to like start the other project. But yeah, the sleeves went by really quickly. Also, I made a short that teaches you how to make the Nordic mix not curl, because that was one of the things that made me not want to knit it, because I feel like rolled hems, I just keep like pulling them so they like lay flat. So just for me, I wanted to have something that wasn't going to curl to begin with. So what I did was I casted on the appropriate number of stitches, and then I knit around in blue, which is my main color for this one. It could be different in yours. And then I did knit 2 blue, knit 2 white, knit 2 blue, knit 2 white, and not purl white. So you knit the second round all the way, every stitch is knitted, because you're trying to set, I'm going to say it a little bit closer for this. You want to set up to where you don't have a bump, a blue bump when you do the first white purl, which can happen if you straight purl the white stitch over the blue. So then I did the knit 2 purl 2 all the way to like the size that I wanted it to go. And I did the same thing with the sleeves, except I cast off here, so like you're going from here to here. And then in this case, I knit 1 round in white all the way around because I wanted to set up again so I don't have purling on the blue side. So, oh wait, no, sorry, I didn't do that. I did knit 2 blue, knit 2 white, knit 2 blue all the way around just to set up like the same thing I did in the other row. And then I knit to the part I wanted it to go. And then after that, I did knit 2 blue, knit 2 white, knit 2 blue, knit 2 white. And then after that row, I knit blue all the way around, and then I cast off, so it'd be casting off on just the blue stitches. if that makes sense. And then for the neckline, I tried to do just what I saw some other people do, which I think is what they did, where you just do the knits all the way around and then you add an I-cord and it's supposed to prevent it from rolling. I did not find that to be the case. Maybe if you block it, but I also blocked it and I still didn't find it to be the case. So for me, what I did is I undid my I-cord and then I did knit 2 white, pearl, I don't know if can you see the pearl stitches? Pearl 2 blue, knit 2 white, pearl 2 blue. So on the very last row before the I-cord, I knit 2 white, knit a pearl 2 blue, just to make it not curl, and it actually worked. So after that round was set up, I went ahead and I did my I-cord. I think I used like 3 stitches of I-cord all the way around. And the first time I did it, it ended up being too loose. The second time I did it, it ended up being too tight. And then finally I got like a better tension to have my head be able to fit over. It still is a little bit tight pulling it over my head, but it's a lot better. So I'll just have to like put up with that. It's not like tied around the neck or anything, but yeah, I hope that helps. I spent a lot of time debating on what to do with the neckline and I finally figured it out. I have about 1.5 inches, maybe 3 centimeters of the neck, so I didn't go like fully up, but that is what I did. All right, next thing I wanted to talk about is I actually released my first pattern on Ravelry, which is the Gigi Cat bonnet. I will insert a picture here if I remember to do that. And this is the next pattern I'm going to publish, which is called the Great Expectations cardigan. And I used the Banul Story Casual, which is a Korean yarn store, and they sell, like, this is their yarn brand that they sell there. But you can probably use any DK weight yarn, honestly. So basically what we've got going on here is some cable designs. We've got a 2x2 hem v-neck all the way around. I have these mixed matched Korean embroidered buttons, and then I think this is called waffle stitch, and on the back we have more cable motifs, and then this is what the sleeves look like. So if you're interested, get excited. My Ravelry is also either a Pilot's Daughter or a Pilot's Daughter Travels. It's linked in my like the top of my YouTube channel, but I'll also link it in the bottom of this video. So hopefully by the time this video goes up, it'll be close to being done or being done. You can also add me as a friend. I didn't know you could do that on Ravelry because I'm like not really, like I'm not really into the technology. Like I don't know it that well, but people started adding me as friends and I was so happy. It was so cute. But yeah, if you want to knit this, it's coming out soon. I knit this like over a year ago, and I had been making the pattern and then I stopped because it was hard to make the pattern when I wasn't physically with it, just to get the measurements and all. So I think that's like pretty much all that's left. Also, this is another tag that I got from Bernina, and it's a little fox, and it says, I actually don't know what that says, so if somebody in German wants to translate for me, thank you. All right, and then I want to talk about, I got this cute dress from Goodwill in LA. It's a vintage dress, and I can't believe I found it at Goodwill, but it's so pretty. And it has Swiss dots on it, if you can see, which I think is so sweet looking. I love Swiss dots. And what's really cool about this dress is inside it has the name of the owner, Stower. It's just like sewed inside there, which I think is really cool. It also has these markings, which I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but if somebody knows, let me know. And it's apparent that somebody obviously took this in. Maybe it was a little bit big. Here it has a little bit of a tear, but no worries, you know, it adds to the character. And then I think it was also sewn in here as well, which I think I need to continue sewing it because part of it is coming undone. So that's a little fixing project, but it does look really sweet and it actually fits me. So that is really cool find. All right, and then what I'm working on now is the terracotta sweater by Lanit. So this is what it looks like right now. I started this like 2 days ago, I think. And it is just the back and then the front, and I'm using Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. Wait, no, Knitting for Olive Silk Mohair, I think it is, and then the Rauma Garn Fin Ul. So I have a bit of a lighter mohair for this just because I wanted to brighten up the main color, but I don't really know if it's doing that at all. But the reason I'm doing that is because this color, I think it's called Natural Heather in Rauma, it's a bit darker than their normal Natural Heather because they changed the factory dyeing method, I think. So I just compromised and I got like a lighter merino. I mean, not merino, mohair. And this is also the same color. I don't know if you can see on the back, but the mohair and the actual color of the yarn are almost identical, which is pretty cool. And I am knitting this because it's kind of like, I was trying to knit my Beja, Tartan Beja, which is like the vest by Sedna Yang, which I can insert a picture of here. But I was just having such a hard time following the pattern. It was really complicated for me and I couldn't figure it out, so I kind of gave up temporarily. I'm gonna go back to it, but I just needed to do something that was easy for a little bit because I was also working on other mentally challenging things at the time, so I didn't want to like just only be focusing on knitting that top. It's also 3 strands of color work at the same time, which is a little bit hard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm used to only doing 2, which is like in typical Fair Isle technique you only do 2, but this one you're using 3. And I will get around to it probably after this or after I knit my own pattern for like a qipao dress. But yeah, so I'm excited for this one to be done. Actually, I never really work with mohair, but I think if I have like a top underneath it, it'll be fine. But basically the main topic that I wanted to get to on this video is whether I think color work or cables are easier after just having done a cable and color work pattern, and also whatever you would call this, like just a combination of knit and purl stitches. So I'm gonna knit while I talk to you about this topic. Personally, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I think that cables are easier. And the reason I say that is because there is an element of mindlessness that comes with the cables after you do that row of like twisting all the stitches. After that, I feel like you can kind of just follow wherever there's knit and purls to an extent. I mean, every pattern is different, so I can't speak for every pattern. But for the most part, when you're doing like 4 rows of just following in pattern, wherever there's like a knit stitch, you knit, and wherever there's a purl stitch, you purl. I feel like that's quite easy. With color work, it depends, but in general, I think it's a bit harder. Which is weird because earlier on in my knitting journey, I would have said I preferred color work because that's what I started with, so that was technically what was easier for me. I was always afraid to do cables because taking them off the needle and twisting them was kind of scary for me, and I never learned with a cable needle either, so I would just like take it off and hope. So I remember one time we were on a really long drive, I think it was like an 11-hour drive, and my mom was trying to teach me how to do cables. It was just not working. It was not working. Hearing her like verbalize how to do it and then me trying to do it, I was like, oh no, not the stitches coming off the needle. That was not it for me. I actually don't even remember what my first cable project was. It might have been something small. I actually don't remember at all. I'm trying to look in my closet and see if I can see what it is. But after I discovered the beauty of cables and how I can travel hands-free, basically, after that, well, hands-free in the way that like I don't have to carry all these different yarn colors, it opened up my eyes, you know. It became like one of the staples of things that I would want to do while I was having a project that was portable. Just because the yarn doesn't get tangled, you can carry less yarn with you. It's just nicer in general. But I still do really, really love color work. I think it's so beautiful. It just with color work, I feel like you have a lot more things to be wary of. With cables, I think it gives you, it gives you a little bit more wiggle room with the tension. But with color work, it's you have to really be careful of your tension, and you have to constantly be tugging at the work just to make sure it doesn't plucker and you get an even tension. So in that way, it is a bit more hands-on. And also, right now I'm knitting color work flat, so I'm going like back and forth. That is not the most joyous of experiences. I much prefer to knit it in the round, especially like when you get towards the ends, they become kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of messy towards the ends when you're knitting it flat, and I still really don't know how to avoid that from happening. Yeah, so if anybody knows how to prevent that, please let me know, because it's something that I deal with every time I try to knit something flat. But when I'm knitting it in the round, it becomes a lot easier, especially if it's a memorizable pattern. I really like that. But still, color work is definitely more, you don't really get a break from it, especially if you're doing all over color work. If you're doing just like a color work yoke and then the rest of it is stockinette, then it's kind of like 50-50 on whether I think one is easier than the other to do. Because with cables, typically you're doing cables all the way. But when you do have just that part where you can knit plain stockinette, that is really nice. But usually when I do the color work, I do have some that are just the color work yoke, but for the most part it's all over color work, or majority color work. It is really nice to get to one round where you can just like knit the color solid. It's just like a reward, you know. You want to like knit fast so you can get up to that point, and then it's kind of like an ending marker for me. I'm like, okay, I'll stop knitting after I get to the solid color round. But there is a lot of patterns that I've made, specifically the Nordic mix that I just showed you, and a lot of the Starmore patterns that have huge color work chart. I'm talking like 50 to 100 stitches that are not memorizable. So in that case, I was literally staring at my phone with the pattern the whole time, just trying to make sure I didn't mess up. And always the setup row is the hardest. For anything really, the setup row is the hardest, even for cables, just because you have to really pay attention to your counting. And yeah, the color work setup rows though, actually cable as well, it's just harder. I don't know, when you're doing like a flat stockinette setup row, it's so much easier because all you have to worry about is counting the right number of stitches. It's like starting off with the right number of stitches. But with the other techniques, you really have to focus on, okay, it's this many of this color and this many of this color, or like this many knits, this many purls, because it'll become apparent really quickly if you make a mistake. So yeah, but honestly, I feel like for the most part, I prefer, oh, one of my yarns fell. I prefer to do projects that are cable and color work, just in general. Like I prefer to have something that is not just plain stockinette, because in my mind, like I know I can do it, so I want to do it. And I always feel like, I don't know, I just feel so proud every time I finish a piece. And even if it's just like plain stockinette, I want it to have like a little bit of like lace or something extra flair about it. But even still, I feel like I've been making a lot more wearable things for me since last year and this year, because I feel like I found a little bit more of my style and what works in my wardrobe, like what works better with other pieces. So keeping that in mind, I feel like I have been able to produce a lot of staples. I mean, even like I was talking about with making the sleeves bigger so they can accommodate bigger dresses, I mostly wear dresses with poofier sleeves. So just to have something that you're able to let that be in your knit, like to able to sit in my knitting, is really nice. Also cute tops. I feel like I want to make more summer tops this year. I want to make my own pattern for some of them as well. I really do like the silk tops though, like the knitting for olive pure silk or just cotton tops. I have a ton of the Sailor Swift by Kutova Kika tops, the striped tops. I made them in so many different colors. I was just like really in love with making them at the end of 2023. So I have a lot of them, but honestly I haven't worn them a lot. just because I feel like they kind of sit at the bottom of my pile of knitted stuff, so it's a little bit hard to pull out, but I think I should start wearing them a bit more. But honestly, I kind of like something with a cap sleeve a little bit more, just because my shoulders burn easier. So I think a cap sleeve would be a good way to protect it from burning. I also took a day trip to San Francisco from LA to see my friend, and we did some knitting together. Actually, we met in Seattle last year at a knitting club after the closing hours of the store. But then we went to Bainbridge Island, and then we ran into each other at a knitting store there. And it was really funny. So we exchanged contact information, and we've been just like keeping in touch with each other since then. And then I went up and visited her, and it was so nice because I feel like I don't have a lot of in-person friends that are into knitting. I feel like most of my friends that are into knitting are online, or they just like live very far away from me. But yeah, I really enjoy having people that have very similar hobbies to me. I feel like I don't have a lot of friends that have very specific hobbies to me besides my online friends, so it's just really nice to know somebody in person and be able to talk about stuff that's very specific and very niche and a little bit nerdy with them. That's kind of why I love the knitting community though. I feel like they all really get it, you know, the process of being a knitter or a crocheter, and they're all really supportive and nice. Usually I have only come across nice people and like nice comments when I post knitting related videos, which is why I kind of stick to creating knitting content. I feel like it's a very gentle niche, you know, like people are very sweet and welcoming. And also I feel like I really enjoy seeing people being creative. I mean, even when people get inspiration from old vintage knitting patterns, it's just so nice to see, because it's like you're taking something old and giving it new life. I think that's really sweet. And also I obviously love vintage style, so I do like seeing those. My mom has a bunch of these old pattern books from I think like the 40s, so I see a lot of like the old designs, and I feel like I should start flipping through them more to get some more inspiration. But yeah, I think other than that, I don't really have much else to say. I'm kind of trying to think of video ideas to make, but I am at a stagnant point. So if you guys have any ideas of what you want me to make videos on, if you want me to do like a Q&A or something, you can leave me some questions. But I appreciate all of you guys being here, and I hope to see you around in my next video, and thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!